The shooting range. In this episode, pages of history, tanks for urban combat, special, changes to ground maps, and metal beasts, versatile heavy fighter. Not a lot of time has passed since we added the legendary Su-27, a 4th-gen heavy fighter. But today we're all set to meet the most modern, mass-produced version of this aircraft. Of course, we need to add that it's the most modern among the base index versions. Please welcome the Su-27 Modification SM. On the outside, it's almost identical to the predecessor, but you can still spot a few differences if you know where to look. The Su-27SM has a different placement of the electro-optical targeting system sensor. The engineers moved it to the right of the aircraft axis to improve the cockpit view. Same as on the earlier version, this aircraft is propelled by a twin turbojet engine with a total afterburning thrust exceeding 23,000 kilogram forces. Despite its large mass, the fighter enjoys a decent level of acceleration and a good climb rate. Although it is a modern fighter, and for modern fighters, flight performance is less important than advanced avionics, devices, and weaponry. And weaponry is where this new top SU can truly deliver. In addition to the familiar R-73 and R-27 AAMs, it can carry up to 6 R-77 missiles with active radar homing heads. These missiles can boast impressive maneuverability. Coupled with a helmet-mounted display, they become a handy, effective tool even in close combat. The avionics of this aircraft are also up to snuff. Sim mode fans might enjoy the new cockpit featuring large multifunctional displays, while the most important new feature is the radar warning system. The RWR on the first version of the Su-27 was quite primitive compared to its counterparts, but the new modification fixes that. Another flaw of the early jet was its lacking CAS capabilities, since it had no air-to-surface guided munitions in its arsenal. The Su-27SM fixes that too. It can use the well-known CAB 500KR bombs and the Ka-29T missiles, as well as a brand new munition in War Thunder. Say hello to the largest TV-guided bomb in the game, the CAB 1500KR. Even the 500-kilo bombs look like toys next to it, and no way we'd call those small in the first place. The Su-27SM can confidently assume the title of a top fighter. It retained all the qualities of an aerial predator while gaining the qualities a truly versatile aircraft needs. The overall design of a modern tank was complete a long time ago. Engineers of all nations arrived at the same concept: strong frontal armor over stronger sides and rear. But the end of the Cold War heralded a new era that shifted the paradigm. Instead of preparing for a new global war, the nations focused on low-intensity conflicts, mostly taking place in urban environments. The military had to adapt to new battlefields where any corner might hide a shoulder-launched HEGM or a Molotov cocktail, and having reliable frontal armor and a good cannon can't guarantee a victory. A modern tank had to return to full perimeter protection. A modern tank also had to be equipped with modern communication systems and remotely controlled auxiliary weapons. So, engineers began to adapt existing vehicles to new realities on the fly. One of the most popular urban tank modifications was the American Tusk kit. This conversion kit gave Abrams tanks reactive armor and slat screens for the sides, shielding for machine guns, an auxiliary turret, and a phone for the crew to talk to the infantry following the tank. All of it could be installed right in the field. The United States ordered a few hundred such kits and soon modified the Tusk itself, improving the remotely controlled turret and adding a new tile-shaped ERA layer on top of the existing one. Other nations did similar things to their vehicles. In 2006, the French introduced the Leclerc Azur, which gave the tank light ERA modules and a remotely controlled small-caliber machine gun. Total ammo count seemed preferable over firepower. The tank was never mass-produced, but the extra armor became part of the newest modification of the vehicle. The German Leopard 2 PSO includes extra composite armor modules for the front and sides, an improved machine gun, and mounts for auxiliary equipment, like a dozer blade. The additions made the tank heavier, so it also received a stronger engine. Same as the Azur kit, the PSO remained a prototype, but some of the parts found their way into newer versions of the tank. The British Challenger 2 might have received the most massive addition to its armor, in all meanings of the word. Extra armor modules were added to the lower front plate, the sides of the turret and hull, as well as the rear. The heaviest version of the tank had a mass of almost 75 tons. Russian engineers also worked on the overall protection level of their tanks. For instance, the latest modification of the T-90 received double-layer ERA on the sides, extra protection for the autoloader carousel, a layer of Kevlar spall liner, a rear niche for turret ammo, and a remotely controlled machine gun. The numerous urban modifications of MBTs never became widely popular, but one can spot their influence all over the world. Most manufacturers are ready to add extra protection to their tanks if the buyer desires it. This competitive advantage has become somewhat of a standard by now. We've already mentioned that the Seek and Destroy update brought a bunch of changes to in-game locations. Today we'd like to give you a small tour around ground maps and tell you all about the new features. We hope this will help you avoid getting surprised in battle. Let's begin with picturesque Sweden. This urban location is famous for its numerous narrow streets and tiny corners. You can ambush an opponent by catching them in a tiny firing line across a block, or surprise someone by slipping into the enemy rear using an unexpected approach. The only thing that limited tank movement in the old version was the concrete blocks barricading some of the paths. Well, the map has no dead ends now. The blocks have been moved to provide cover instead. We'd also like to mention the new design of the minimap. Streets and buildings have much more contrast now, so you'll have less trouble navigating them. The next location is the Middle East. Our designers have removed the hill climb in squares G6 and G7, while also closing up some positions in the north of the map and in square F6. The main goal of this change is to reduce the number of long-range firing lines and protect the spawn points. Besides that, we've also fixed those pesky bushes, removing some of them from places they shouldn't be in. Some other maps had similar issues fixed. For instance, we removed large plants around point A on the Campania map to improve visibility. The Sands of Sinai got some of its hills in squares C7 and F7 cropped because they complicated action on most of the map. One of the most popular ground maps, the Advance to the Rhine, has also been changed. The park area lost its brick barricades and trimmed its bushes. Additionally, airfields, plane and helicopter spawn points in all modes have been moved to positions behind their teams to improve the balance for all sides. The same logic was used to move aircraft spawn points on the Ardennes map. The Carpathians only received a single tiny change. We blocked a position in the rocks found in the northern part of the map, on the border between D3 and D4. European Province received a few small changes. Square B2 now has no positions that allow safe fire onto the enemy spawn point. The biggest update was given to the Tunisia map. We reduced its overall size a little and removed the large hill from the center, together with the rocky maze and a large bridge. These changes can be found in almost all modes, especially the largest versions of the map. We've also reworked some of the ground spawn points, removed small rocks that prevented free movement, fixed the height of the dunes, and reduced the depth of the river in the main area. All tanks can now cross the waters safely. Share your thoughts in the comments. Meanwhile, we'll answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called the 23rd Radio Tower. How would you recommend using the F8F in Air RB or Ground RB? Hi there. The F8F is best played using altitude advantage in air combat because it has a superior climb rate. In dogfighting, try to pull your opponent up to enjoy the advantage of the strong engine. And don't forget to use your flaps. The F8F has excellent high-lift devices. In mixed battles, the Bearcat is an amazing versatile aircraft, thanks to its impressive ordnance load. Nathan Yu asks, what are the differences between the AD4 and the A1H? Hey Nathan, the A1H is a later modification with an expanded arsenal of suspended armament. Another question comes from Akush Dobush. Why does the reload of ATGMs and tanks take longer? Hello! That's one of the situations where size actually matters. ATGMs are usually much longer than other types of ammo, so few autoloaders can handle them. And when they can't, some manual labor is needed. XKA24 writes, what's the best way to use the MiG-21S R13300 effectively? Hi! This aircraft has early radar-guided missiles that you can even launch in a frontal attack. Most opponents at this low BR have no radar warning receivers, so they won't expect an attack like this. In close combat, this MiG should rely on its flight performance and autocannon. And the last comment for today was written by Yuan Furbax. What's the difference between the Ground Zero map and the Alaska map? Hey Furbax, Ground Zero is a version of Alaska only with a destroyed town center. A large explosion is rumored to have happened there. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to say thanks to Betty for saving your jet. Leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.